those of us just joining right now, welcome to the panel. Thank you so much for another day of wonderful programming. Today's conversation is about women in music, and we're going to get started in about a minute or two with a formal intro from Troy. But in the meantime, I'm going to post the audience rules in the chat right now. Just please abide by them, just keeping all the love in the chat room right now. And also, if you're interested in creating community after the panel, we have a Slack group you can be invited to. Feel free as we post the link right now. But as we move forward, another note as well, I keep getting a lot of questions about Q&A email doc, Google Doc that was sent around. We do not have a Google Doc. Please do not add your email to any random Google Docs that people are sending links to. If you're interested in creating community and connecting with each other, please join the Slack group. Much safer and much easier way to get to know each other.
Don't send money.
Don't send money, yes, please. Except to Music Cares, because they are wonderful and can use the support right now with everything.
Unless, Jay, you got a side hustle right now, sending out Google Docs?
Mm-hmm. You just shut my shit down. I collect cash apps over here.
But for nonetheless, Troy, I've handed it over to you. Thanks, everyone.
Or Suze, I'll actually defer to Suze.
Okay, perfect. So, hi everybody, welcome. I'm Suzy. If you don't already know me, I'm a co-founder of Q&A, and we've been doing these panels every day for almost a month now. And during this time of pandemic and crisis, we wanted an opportunity to bring our community together. And actually, first hat tip to Maria is actually during our all team check-in that she raised her hand and said, hey, I'm really feeling for the music community right now, and we're all going through this, and I wanna do something. And Troy alley-ooped and said, why don't we do, I'm down to do a fireside chat, and I'm down to do it every day next week, and we could do it on Zoom just like this. And with that, we had our first session. It was a Thursday on a Monday, and Ryan and Ethiopia, thanks to Jay, joined us, and we've had cumulatively about 10,000 people join these Zoom panels. Wow. Which is exceptional. And I just have to be honest, I'm most excited about today, and so excited to have Ethiopia back. And thank you for co-curating with me over the last 24 hours. And this panel of ladies and powerhouses, and Ryan, Troy, and Jay, and I think we're just excited to check in with each of you to see how you're doing and how your worlds have changed, and how a couple of you, many of you have sprung into action and figured out new normals, and just to check in on how your families are doing, and what it's like to be at home in this time, and what your plans are moving forward. So with that, Ethiopia, we're going to keep this a free flowing discussion, but so excited.
Yeah, I'm here in Atlanta, which is home for me. It's where my family is and where my parents are. And I think when Jay first hit me, when he and Troy and you all had the idea to start the panels, I had just gotten to Atlanta and decided that I was going to post up here to be close to my family. I have a place here, so I wanted to make sure I could be near my parents. And Jay had hit me and he was like, yo, we're thinking about, doing these panels and just kind of having community and conversation amongst all of us. And I was like, yo, I need that. It'd be dope to have it. It was all kind of new, right? We're all experiencing this together. And here we are, our fifth weekend, and this new normal, I guess. I don't even know if the shit is normal, to be completely honest. But, we've found a bit of a rhythm from a business aspect and putting music out, but also just being there for our teams and our artists, honestly, as they're kind of figuring it out, and we're all figuring it out together. As far as family is concerned, my family's good, so I'm good. That's what matters most to me. And also being there for, team members. I think that when this all first started, it felt a little like far away for a lot of us. And as the time has gone on, we're seeing that the level of separation is all getting a little closer, you know what I mean? And so just making sure, you know, our people are good as they're starting to experience other people closer to them that are being affected by the virus. So that's what matters most. And also, like, it's interesting because a few weeks ago, for myself, like going through different emotions about it all, and because it's been kind of crazy being stuck in the house and can't front. I've been going through it too. But there was a moment probably like 2 weekends ago where I hit this like crazy level of inspiration, which was really wild because I hadn't had it in a minute. And, you know, talking to a few people that are in my life that I'm in business with, artists and a few of my partners, where I was like super inspired, and I had like a wall of like Post-it notes, because clearly we know our business isn't going to be the same coming out of this. And there were a few people that would call me that were very like doom and gloom, you know what I mean? And that consistent doom and gloom conversation didn't really feed me, and it wasn't good for me. And so I had to tell them, like, chill, don't hit me on Instagram sending me all the crazy shit. It didn't feed me. It wasn't good for me. And then my conversation back to them was something different. It was more like, how do we fight back? How do we look at things differently? What are we going to do now to really help others? To really look at things differently? What do we do to really help other people right now? What can we do because we are healthy, because we are of sound mind, you know? And that level of inspiration has actually helped me in a different way and allowed me to give back to others. So that's been dope, you know, and I've been trying to feed on that. Take it day by day.
No, we curated this group to have really diverse and functional representation from all parts of the industry, whether it's artists and producers and A&Rs and marketing execs and PR execs. And I think we have a really interesting cross-section. And to start with our artists, Kehlani and Charm, just want to check in and see how you're doing and how you're adjusting. Like, Kehlani, I love that you have the at-home gel kits. And just would love to hear from the both of you.
Just how we've been functioning.
Yeah.
I mean, I was kind of like very isolated and very stay at home already. The most I went outside was to work. So having to figure out how to bring that in the house as well has been interesting, because there was a lot of things I didn't know how to do. Like I never really like recorded myself or just did much at home. I always had like a team that I really like loved and like brought in and like worked with them and stuff. So I really just been like literally sitting on a computer on YouTube University and learning how to do you know, all of these things myself, which has been honestly really fun, and it's keeping my mind from being too idle. I've actually considered myself being more busy now that I'm in the house, having to learn all these things to move forward with than when I was outside. But other than that, like, I have a 1-year-old, so like getting to, you know, be home and have her in her home environment versus like bringing her to the studio or like having her come to meetings with me. That's been dope to just be home like that. But really, it's just been about like deciding to sit down and like learn new ways to move forward with putting out music, thinking about making more music, all the things that come out with that, because I was about to be getting my album roll out. So
Yeah, my life motto is moms are heroes. And I really truly believe that now, especially, you know, with this situation. And yeah, so up to you.
To piggyback off Kehlani, I'm a homebody as well. But when this all kind of started, I was actually in London, putting together a tour, and I decided to fly back as soon as everything hit the media. And when I got home, I was at a standstill because I didn't know if I could continue to like, oh, okay, what I'm going to do. Everything I seem like I do is in forefront, like with people, right? To choreograph or to create, I'm with the artist. And it's interesting because immediately my mind switched because a particular artist I was working with still wanted to put out things for their rollout because they were in the rollout. So I ended up turning into like FaceTiming with choreography, downloading Zoom, getting dancers from London all on Zoom. Everyone's learning choreography now on Zoom, and trying to do our best and to still create and still deliver art in a way. And like Kalani, I'm learning new things. I've decided to learn new things, keeping my mind occupied and busy so I'm not at a standstill, and keeping my creative process flowing. For me, it's what's best. I'm also learning a new language.
Hey.
So I'm doing that. And still, again, with creating, I'm now reaching out to more creatives, and we're coming together to figure out ways to continue to create, if that makes sense. But yeah.
And then throwing it over to Nova Wave, I've heard such wonderful things from Ryan and also from the team over at Splice, that you two just being the most innovative, and just super excited to hear how this has changed your process, and if you've been doing Zoom sessions and sending out packs and packs and packs.
I mean, honestly, this is kind of how Blue and I started. I'm Chi. But just being back home, we both came to the East Coast. We're back at our mom's cribs, and we're just back where it all started, where we, started grinding. So I don't know. It's been fairly easy for us. We've been doing this for so long, just sending sessions back and forth, and being creative in this kind of way. And I think even us being apart has somewhat opened up a space for different creativity that we can pass back and forth. So I think it's been good for us personally.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree. I don't know. It's like, it's not really that much different. It's kind of how we work all the time. I don't know. I'm just able to do more stuff like work out and really spend time with my loved ones, and it's giving me that extra boost and creativity that I need. So it's had its pros, but it's definitely had its cons, because it's a lot different from when you're creating next to somebody, when you're just sitting in your room doing it like you just starting it, like when we just first started, so that's really the big difference. But we've been making it work.
It's been good stuff, though. It's been some great records coming out of it, for sure.
Yeah,
I think amongst the panels we've heard this thing about being reminded of when you started out, like those early days where you had to win every battle and like fight for the small wins, and how, like, I think that's how we're thinking about it as a team as well. It's like every day counts, and how do we be more considerate of our team members as well as our families during this?
Absolutely.
Ashley, I feel like through the quarantine, you've had big news with Kehlani. Congratulations. Still making things happen.
Have to.
Are you in LA?
I am. Yeah, I'm in LA. Blessed to have my girlfriend, her sister, and my sister here with me. So kind of like everyone else is saying, just enjoying time with family, trying to be as productive as possible. I feel like Zoom has opened up a whole new world for like what we do, and just being creative, and not everything has to be an in-person meeting where you drive across town or hop on a plane. So just utilizing these new tools, and sending a lot of beat packs, sending a lot of songs, things like that. How have you all felt like having these Zoom meetings? Do you feel like people are more comfortable operating on Zoom? I feel like for myself in Zoom meetings now, there seems to be a level of comfort that people have, being more open and comfortable speaking. Yeah, I think like in office meetings. Yeah, there's definitely that. And also too, we've just been able to get people to meet with us that we've been trying to pin down for months even, people that travel a lot, or, they're just so busy, they can hop on a 30-minute Zoom. And I feel like it's just more to the point. It's more concise. I don't know. I feel like it's just a lot more effective. So they've been really effective. We've gotten a bunch of placements out of them so far. And it's definitely something we'll continue even when the world does open back up. I think it's just really effective.
Nice. So it's been more efficient from a business standpoint.
For sure, definitely.
I think people have, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I think people have been really considerate too with the Zoom meetings, because it's like you're at home and your home life is going on. And I think sometimes when we're at the office, we try to forget that people have personal lives. And with the Zoom, you can't separate. So when someone's kid runs into the Zoom, or their dog, or their significant other, even, everyone just kind of keeps going. They're just like, whatever, like, you know, we're still focused. They don't make an issue about it. And I thought that was just really nice, as far as everyone being supportive of each other's circumstances, and whatever their unique situation is with everything going on right now.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, Nicole, because you all are in the middle of putting out a big project, a big release that's about to come out. And Latrice, you just put out Jesse's project. I think it might be interesting for you all to talk about that process in the middle of all of this, right? Like how it's been to be kind of in the thick of putting out these releases. You know, Ashley, for you to be talking about placements. Nicole, you're about to put out a big release. And Jesse, and Latrice, you just put out Jesse's project. Like, what's the process? How has it been in the middle of the quarantine to be going through the process of finishing up records and putting it out, you know, during this time?
I mean, there's definitely been challenges, you know, and I think for the artists that already had, you know, a good part of their creative already done and already recorded, it was a little bit easier, because you didn't have as many challenges. But there's still things to think about, even just the social considerations. You know, do you, you know, you have some artists that challenge the social distancing, and you know, what's your stance on that, and what things are you gonna, you know, collectively agree, you know, as a company, as an artist team, that, you know, we're all going to accept this is not a message that we want to convey, and we want to understand, we want to reflect that we understand what's going on right now. So there's that, which is for some limitations with the creative. We've had to just be innovative, really. But it's interesting to see that, you know, under the circumstances, you can be innovative, and it just forces people to figure out ways around the obstacles. And obviously we're still moving forward, so we were able to figure it out even on a really large scale.
Yeah, I think on our end, with respect to Jesse, you know, to echo what Nicole said, it's been very difficult, but I think the one thing that we've done really well is just band together as a team, and, you know, had as many conference calls and sent as many texts and emails as we needed to figure out alternatives. You know, there were a lot of things that we had on the table. You know, Jesse has an amazing plan, and a lot of things that were sort of lost in the process due to the pandemic. And I think that, you know, we had to really figure out ways to pivot, and to still be able to get the message out to her fans and people in a way that she felt was authentic, and in a way that was also, you know, sensitive to what's happening in the world right now. So ultimately, I think her music is very relevant to what's happening, and she's a true artist and has always, you know, made music from the heart. So, you know, she felt comfortable to release it. And, you know, we as a label just stood behind her and tried to develop the best possible plan that we could, considering everything. And, you know, we're really excited and really happy with how well it's done. And, you know, we'll just keep continuing to forge forward. But we definitely had to figure out how to be more creative, how to be more innovative, and have sort of, luckily, you know, we had banked a lot of things ahead of time, you know, from when she was traveling back and forth to New York and in LA, just knowing that she was going to be heading out on tour. She was obviously on tour with Billie Eilish, and we also had her tour lined up. So she was touring through the end of the year. So, you know, we just had to figure out ways to rally around all of the previous things that we had set up for her. And, you know, it's been a process, and there's, like I said, there's been twice the amount of calls and emails, but it's well worth it. And I think it just pushes us, you know, and Sharm said this earlier, to connect with more creatives on, you know, a more one-on-one basis, and to maybe have more brainstorming meetings and creative meetings, as opposed to, you know, just sending emails all day, or just being in meetings all day. We've had to figure out how to operate a little bit differently, and it's been working well for us so far, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Manny, I know you can kind of speak to a lot of that. We've kind of been in the thick of like a lot of artists who have made music and want to put their music out, but don't have the content or creative kind of figured out. And so it's been a bit of a struggle, right? With
It's been a struggle. It's been rewarding at times and deflating at other times. But one thing I will say is, like, it shows our resilience to keep on striking at it and figuring out new ways. And I do think throughout all of this, like, true art and talent is going to shine through. And also, it's like the balance between, okay, we want to make this, we want it to be different, we don't want to just do animation, but hey, your artist might not be feeling up to it today. Maybe your artist's grandmom is dying, maybe their girlfriend or boyfriend is having an issue, maybe somebody else caught corona. And like, being human, like, I feel like I put in equal amounts of energy into bouncing ideas off the walls and being more vulnerable to give like unique ideas that sometimes I might be scared to say in a big room. But then it's also some mornings where I'm waking up and it's like, hey, how are you doing? I don't want anything. I'm just checking on you.
Yeah.
Because it's like, we're going through stuff. A lot of them have taken a lot of loss on a lot of money and shows. So to keep that in the back of our minds and like having that empathy.
Definitely. It's interesting because I think it's been a process of, you know, as far as artists go, like their understanding of like the change that's happened, like the cycle of like, you know, their understanding of like the live space and what's happening and that kind of changing for the rest of the year. And that's been really tough. And also kind of ideating with them of how we plan out the rest of their year. And you know, I think for myself, it was like 2 weeks of getting calls from some friends at other labels calling me like, hey, so listen, they charging this much for features and I just want to make sure you're going to clear it. And I'm like, nah, that's not going to happen. How about that? So, or we might do that, you know what I mean? Just because like the understanding of discounted rates on features, just because, you know, maybe finding out like that the money isn't gonna come in the same way, but it's also kind of understanding like, let's plan out the year differently. Let's figure out other ways that we can do things because we know maybe the live money isn't coming in this way, but let's plan it out a different way. And maybe there are other ways that we're gonna be making money and we're gonna do it and we're gonna support you through this. You know what I mean? And we're locking arms with you to make sure you're good through this process. And we're in it together and they know that, and we're figuring it out together. So there've been a lot of conversations along those lines as well.
And we think it's going to end up being longer than the end of the year.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I know.
so,
Been having conversations. You know, being here in Atlanta, I've had a few conversations too. You know, look, Atlanta nightlife, right? That's a big part of the whole shit in Atlanta too. And I've, you know, had a conversation with one of the biggest promoters down here too. And we were talking about, okay, when it lets up, everyone wants to be outside. What happens then? You can't be outside in the clubs in Atlanta like that when it lets up.
Yeah.
There's a cap on that. The money isn't gonna be the same. You know what I mean? So people aren't gonna be able to be in the clubs like that. So it's all gonna be different. And so we have to support our artists and our talent through that. And help them figure this out. But there's gonna be money to make, it's just gonna be different. And we have to figure it out with them and support them through this.
Yeah, and people are gonna remember who showed up during these times.
Yeah.
You know, because I think, you know, for the next year and a half, you know, everybody should sort of just kind of plan as if, you know, there may be waves and cycles of this, and then just looking at even when people come back, we can't forget, you know, the global unemployment numbers and where people aren't going to have money to buy tickets for, multiple events. So it'll be a lot of people who have to, sort of shift their models. But I do think the people who can help them prepare and help them weather the storm are going to be the people that they remember, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Kaylani, one of the reasons I really wanted you to be a part of this, I reached out to David. It was because, one, I love the authenticity and the connection that you have with your fans, and I think a lot about the kids and like the wave of the effects of everything that's happening, right? Like, I wonder how the fans are reacting to what's happening now, right? And I think you have an authentic connection to your fans, one, and also
thank you.
Just the way that you have kind of taken control of, and, taking control of your own creative, and, what you did with the video you created on your own and how dope that was, and the reaction to that. It was so fire. I remember I was on a group chat with some friends. I was like, yo, did you even know that filter was on the fucking computer? I was like, yo, that was fire. Did you see that video? I think everyone had that reaction in the challenge that was created, but I just thought it was super dope. And clearly there's a lot of opportunity for artists now too, to kind of push themselves creatively and take control of their own creative and learn, as you said you're doing as well, but also like being in tune to, I've been thinking a lot about like what's next, right? Like, where's music gonna go? What's gonna be the reaction to this? And what are they gonna want? Because like you said, Troy, there is a lot of unemployment. Kids are out of school right now. Will they be back in school in the fall? Will school be out for the rest of the year? How are they gonna feel? What is the reaction to this? Like, there's gonna be a reaction to all that's happening now. We're not feeling it right now, but what are they gonna wanna feel? And what's the music gonna feel like? You know what I mean? So I wonder, and I wanted to hear your voice and perspective on this, Kaylani, specifically.
Well, I think even just talking about like what the conversation with the fans is right now is they don't understand how the music industry works.
Mm-hmm.
So make an announcement like, yo, my album got pushed back because I couldn't do anything. They're like, well, don't you just click a button and like upload it to the DSPs and like we're gonna have the album? Like, what's the issue? They don't understand. I can't go to the studio to sit in with the mixing engineer to listen to the mixes. They don't understand. I can't go shoot my cover how I wanted to shoot it. They don't understand basically everything. We have these meetings, we have to go into the label and play it. I have to do a press run. I have to pick the singles. They don't understand any of this. They think we just click the button. I think it would be dope for that to be an honest conversation at some point, with like people like you guys and the fans, just opening up and kind of allowing artists to sit with the people that make these things happen and just let them know like, it is way more than just clicking the button and putting the music out. Like, these are all the dope things. I think that also introduces kids to potentially wanting to be in your guys' position as well when they get older. Like, oh, I want to be the person to help click the button. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at all the cool stuff they get to do that doesn't necessarily revolve around me just being like the artist. So right now, that's been a funny conversation, is me having to explain over and over again, yeah, like my album got pushed back. This is why, because this is, where it is. But I think like Manny was saying, it's going to be a time for, real creativity to shine through, because people are going to have to think of, cool ways to do this. But I also think that it's really inspiring because it shows kids that this is super accessible. Like, wow, my favorite artist just dropped a video from her laptop in the middle of the night. I think I dropped it like 1 a.m. Like, it was no rollout. I don't think I even asked my label for permission. I was just like, yo, what's my YouTube password? Like, just don't say nothing. Holla at me in the morning. I'm scared. Like, tell me if you like it in the morning. I don't know. So it's showing them that it's kind of like separating kids from looking at us like this, like upwards, and putting us all on the same level, because this virus it doesn't discriminate. You know what I'm saying? It can affect any of us, all of us.
It is the great equalizer. That's
right. So it shows people like, wow, like we're all here right now. Like, I can do what they're doing. They're going to have to come down here and figure out what we're doing. And we're all just on this same, like, waiting for news, waiting for updates, waiting to figure out what it is. So I think it's honestly been kind of cool seeing artists just like doing the lives and the battles and like getting on Twitter and doing question and answers, and like actually being on Twitter for once and like talking to their fans and like going live to their fans. It's been really cool, and artists are connecting with each other. I'm in like group chats with like peers I've never spoken to, and just like coming up with cool ways, like how can we do this video for this feature? Like how can we knock a feature out right now? Like someone tried to come like set up a studio like 6 feet outside my crib. Like it's just
Right.
there's levels, but it's been cool trying to like navigate that. And I think it's gonna allow people to connect and build in a really cool way that they're gonna take beyond this. So
That's dope. Tammy, what are some of the things you've been seeing?
I'm unmuting. Hi. Well, it's been an interesting time. We've actually, at my agencies, we're all about strategy.
Hey, Tammy, just want to make sure you know you're breaking up a little bit.
She may want to reconnect. You might want to reconnect, Tammy.
Okay, I'll come back. Okay.
I'm having a little bit of audio issues myself.
Technology is only good when it works, is one of my personal favorite quotes. But also just like one question I have, just like as a young, as a young professional, and also just seeing kind of some interesting feedback from both artists and then teams alike. Obviously we're in a unique age where we're only able to use digital media as the main marketing tool, but both for artists and both on the marketing end of the label. But I'm also seeing a lot of feedback of artists and their management teams being like, hey, like we should be paid for these ops, and or like certain things like that. And on my end, I kind of have two mindsets that have come up with that question. Like, one, as a woman, historically and like analytically, we're usually paid less than most. So that's a first thing. Second thing that comes up is like in a negotiation period, you kind of, there's a tendency to like want to come in a little mild rather than with heat due to the nature of where we're at in our country and what, kind of the issues they stand. But lastly, I think everyone should be paid for their work, and I don't think art is cheapened as a result of more people viewing it, So I just kind of wanted to pose that question to the group as well.
I mean, I think as far as creatives getting paid for some of the innovative ideas that are coming up right now, I mean, that's necessary. I mean, that's got to happen. I think it being so new, we don't have like no one foresaw a club experience virtually on Instagram Live before. So there wasn't any like plan or rate or like this is how much things should cost. So seeing people start with like the cash apps and trying to make sure that people are getting compensated for what they're doing, I think is really great. Just being innovative like that. But of course, like art should be, the creators need to be compensated. So that's really important, especially as women or as not as women, just creatives in general. I don't know how everybody else feels about that right now, but
I agree with you, Nicole, because this is part of what's been heartbreaking is like a lot of the people I work with in video production, they're freelancers. So as soon as this happened, it's like a huge bulk of the community I work with is out of work. And I have a kid, my boyfriend freelances, but we're still surviving off of one income. There are a lot of people that are not able to. So when D-Nice started off the quarantine club or whatever, and people were like circulating his Cash App and able to actually Cash App for that in different situations, seeing the strippers tune in and being able to get Cash App, like that's been helping with actually the negative part of coping.
I'll jump in here. I'll just go back to what I was saying. We're really working on finding out what the trends are in real time. So it's been really exciting to see the beginning part of streaming, live streaming. Everyone was jumping in. Many of my artists were doing global citizen DJ sets. It was the weekend that D-Nice went viral. And then sharing this information in real time with my clients and finding ways for us to collaborate and go viral was really the key to just give comfort in people's homes. So my client, Tory Lanez, he became inspired by what was happening with the IG Live world, and who knew that like IG Live was going to be the biggest thing within a week, and being able to provide entertainment, income and to pin information about how to help COVID relief is critical. So my clients were all finding different ways to use their platforms to direct fans to give back, to be part of the action, to feel better about everything. So, and definitely, we're in a global crisis right now. So many people are out of business. So many companies are just trying to figure out if they're going to even be in business in a month, and everyone's going rogue and seeing what's working. So it's definitely a time for collaborating, for brands and organizations and artists to come together in different industries to get a larger platform through their social media platform partnerships. So I'm finding that there's not a lot of financial resources. There's no budgets for brands and platforms to spend to pay artists to do things that we're proposing based on the crisis we're in. So I think everyone has to give a little. Artists are becoming a lot more, lenient with their access because they're giving back for the greater good. And what's cutting through the noise is the authenticity. So, what you're, Kaylani, and being able to authentically connect directly with your fans is what's winning right now. And it's the most exciting time for fans to really feel like they are on the same page as the artists. We're all stuck at home. We're all quarantining. And it's definitely a time for leniency and trying to do things together and collaborate in a way that we've never done in the past.
Yeah. Just to expand on that a little bit, how is and this came up on one of our other panels, but like how as men how can we be supportive of the women around us, and how can we do more? How can we create more inclusion and make sure that everyone's been being treated equally and fairly? Shani, I'd love to hear from you. You're my sister, so you don't talk to me crazy on this panel either, by the way. But you talk straight to me, and I'd love to be able to hear from you, just kind of what your thoughts are around that. Like, how can the fellas do more?
I think there are a lot of ways that the fellas could do more. Just making sure that the women are embraced as much as the men. I know I've had a lot of different experiences throughout my career. Sometimes it feels, oftentimes, most times it feels like women, we have to work 10 times as hard as a lot of men to get to these positions and to get the recognition, within our teams or companies or, whatever organization you work within. I think making sure that you give credit where credit is due. If it's a collaboration, let it be that. I think I find oftentimes I'm hearing I more than we now. Most of the organizations that it should be a we mentality. That's what I grew up in this business doing, and that's what kind of I expect to do and will continue to do throughout my career. I'm also a big advocate of each one to teach one. We have little brothers and sisters that need to, just to Kalani's point, just embrace them, let them know that this is something that you can do. This is not something that's not tangible for like the regular kid. This isn't special. It's hard work, it's hustle, it's being innovative, it's being collaborative, just really being a full team player, and also not being afraid to step out. I think I've oftentimes think that I feel like men sometimes get caught up in the boys club thing, and maybe they don't want to step out and say, hey, well, this woman is actually the backbone to this, or she's helping in this, A, B, C, and D way. Like, we should actually give her a chance too. I think that will help across the board.
I'd like to add on to that. I think one way that men can help is to not dismiss the things that you don't understand, right? So essentially totally different types of creatures. And if you don't understand it, maybe just pass it on to another woman that may actually be able to embrace it, embrace the ideas. And sometimes, even though things aren't for you specifically, it doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. It's just not for you. So hey, even just connecting more women together, for dope.
Yes.
I also think it's like not being afraid or not shying away from vulnerable or difficult conversations, because those are the conversations that are going to enable growth. And if you respect and care about a teammate, whether they're a guy that you can boys club, like, hey dude, I just need to talk to you about this, or a woman, but you fear that there might be some kind of like misunderstanding, I think like just setting that aside and telling it how it is. I think as women, we just want an equal opportunity to be told how it is, and then we'll make the effort to change or iterate or grow. And I think that kind of vulnerability in leadership and in communication is something that we can use more of. I get that every day though with Troy and with Jay, so I'm good.
Me much more than Jay though.
I was gonna just say. Yeah, I don't know if you all know the story, but like, I don't know if you know the story, but Troy plucked me out of what I was doing before in brands and in tech and brought me into the music world and said, hey, you can do this. You can work with entrepreneurs and you can work with musicians and artists and people in the music industry, and let's build this together. And so he definitely saw something in me. And then over the past year and a half, Jay and I have just like built together, and it's been an incredible
better relationship than you and Troy have. Neither here nor there.
But I think it's like a great example of, I feel so much and leave us in the so thank you to Troy, Jay, people like Ryan who said we need to have Nova Wave on this panel. So every day I'm just like grateful for the people that we have the opportunity to work with, and then also the women that we're able to bring along. I'm gonna stop now, but our company, like, we're 30 people in 1 year, and we're half men and women. And I'd love with every ounce of my body to keep it that way, because those voices that come from different backgrounds and ethnicities and religions and sexual orientations and everything is gonna be what keeps us sharp. Like iron sharpens iron.
And it's like just the whole idea around diversity of thought, because I think, what works great within our team by having that sort of balance, people are going to hear records different. People are going to talk about marketing different. It's so many different lenses. And then the other piece is like when there's a ton of testosterone in a room, problem solving looks a lot different, because I think a different energy comes out in terms of aggressive types of problem solving. And I think us being, because, and Suze, you've talked me off the ledge a million times in terms of, we'll start a conversation in one place, and then by the time it cycles through, it comes out with a more balanced approach to problem solving. So I just think for the sake of running a healthy business, I think it's the right thing to do, just in that case by itself.
Yeah, if you bottle up that thought and share it with all your guy friends, leaders and executives, like that's how we.
I don't want them to know because I'm competing with them.
I got a music related question for Nova Wave, Ashley, probably E too. We see a lot of initiatives with engaging female producers, engineers, and all of those things. Obviously, Nova Wave, this is what y'all do in that space. And if you don't mind with me being transparent with the group and everyone that's watching, just a little conversation we had, they called me one day and were like, hey, we don't feel like you're supporting us as much as producers as you are as writers. And, you know, we started to talk and like, we got to this place where they started to explain to me what was happening in the rooms when they got into the rooms with people, and something different was happening from when things were being set up. So I just wanted to hear from y'all of like what that experience is and like what advice you could give to the next round of women that are trying to be like y'all and Missy and everyone else, and just get some of y'all perspective. And maybe Ashley and E too, you work, you know, with a lot of women that produce and engineer and do a lot of different things creatively. If you could just hear a little bit about that experience.
She, you want to go ahead and speak on that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, as we all know, as women, it's been super difficult. That's just across the board. You know, it's crazy. Like when we get in these rooms, it's no respect. And a lot of times when these sessions are being set up, it's more so of the men are in charge, how the sessions are being set up, if I just be completely frank. And when we says it's being run that way, and as female producers, and things that we want to come in and establish, but if that's session, then that is your session. So I think, I mean, I don't know, Ryan. It's a hard fight, man, and heavy as the head is the crown. But I will say, first of all, I do appreciate you in general for taking that chance in signing us. And to the executives, you may not be aware of how truly hard it is for female producers and engineers. And I don't know, Blue, you want to expand?
I think you pretty much nailed it. I mean, just all in all, it's just a difficult fight, you know. It's just that notion of just trying to, you got to work 2 times as hard to prove yourself, you know. And then just trying to find that thin line between not like, I guess like overexerting yourself and just trying to fit in where you don't make things uncomfortable. You know what I mean? You just kind of, you want it to be an understood respect when you walk in the room, like, okay, cool. You're going to pass me the aux, I'm going to pass you the aux. Because if I'm here, then I'm supposed to be here. You know, you just want the mutual respect. So, but I mean, we just been putting the work in, and even though it's a hard fight, I mean, we making our way. We're trailblazing. So obviously, like, we're doing something right, but it's difficult.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
it should be, you know, the Rooney Rule? You guys ever hear the Rooney Rule?
No.
So basically, in the NFL, Rooney, who owned Pittsburgh, the Steelers, basically made the other owners of the team, they had to agree if they were hot, because there was a lack of black NFL head coaches. And so part of the process if you're hiring an NFL coach is you have to interview black coaches, because they weren't getting the interviews. And so the only way to fix that is if labels put rules in place that a certain amount of their records goes towards female engineers or female producers. And like and at the same time, you got to build pipelines in the meantime as well to be able to fill the void for whatever shortage is there. But it won't get there with people trying to figure it out on their own. It has to be fixed systemically. That's the only way. Any sort of bias and discrimination, only way it gets fixed is if it's fixed systemically. But
Yeah, I feel like similarly in the film and TV industry, I feel like the work that the whole Time's Up gang have been doing around the inclusion riders in the post Harvey Weinstein world, if you remember, that was like the top female movie stars were demanding in their contracts that half of the crew, half of the production team, half of the writing room were women, and they would write that in or say no. And like it's like that, how do you create the market and force it by using the power and the leverage, and shedding that power, like pointing that energy towards somewhere that needs it.
In the interim,
I was gonna say it is a systemic issue, and we can't leave it as a, oh, that's just the way it's been. You know what I mean? Like that's just how it goes from a creator standpoint, and leave the struggle to the women that walk in the room and have to deal with, like, oh, that's just how it goes, and they just got to deal with that battle to prove themselves when they go in the room. Like it's time to be disruptive, and for all of us that sit in the seats and positions to really make change, it's on, the onus is on us to be able to do it, and it's it's on us.
I also love the topic of queen making, and how do we help queen make Nova Wave, and how do we help queen make the other executives and A&Rs and in the artists in the industry to help shed a light on what they're doing, and how do we use our collective power and energy to anoint like the winners and help them amass like influence and power, so that we know that they can relate that back to the next gen.
It starts with that phone call, that they made to Ryan. And I think like what I was gonna say is, like, as the men in the interim, like until we can kind of deal with it on a systemic level, like us being aware of how we can be helpful is super important. And that phone call and having the guts to call Ryan and stand on what you guys believe is right, and Ryan being one of the good guys and saying, you know what, I'm gonna help fix this and make sure that this is right. The more of those phone calls that we can get, I mean, I just know that, even on this panel, and there's a lot of guys that want to be helpful and be supportive, like those are those things where we could be helpful and make a difference. Those phone calls are important. Until we change the system and in a real way in the interim, pull our coattails, let us know what we can do better and different, and how we can be supportive, and stand on what you deserve and what you and we'll stand on it with you.
For sure. And for the record, like, no woman wants a handout. Like,
right.
It's not like
that part.
Just, oh, you know what I mean? Like, oh, just include me because I'm a woman. I don't want to be greatest producer and songwriter, like of the category. I want to be that. I want to be the top in general. I want to be one of the greatest of all time in general. So just making it clear and finding out that boundary of how we include women, but we're not looking for handouts. We're not looking for handouts.
Absolutely.
I want to say one thing too. I was talking to Suzy about this earlier. It's all about micro steps. So what I've learned in all the cross sections of the industries that I work in, I work in politics as well. We have a social impact division of our company. One thing the Obama administration did, and so many democratic organizations are doing, are celebrating women in the room when there's a meeting, when there's a collective meeting. And oftentimes a woman said something or said it the day before and it was overlooked, but a man in the room who has a power says it, they acknowledge it. They said, I really love what Tammy said yesterday. That was a really great idea. So you empower the woman, you don't let anyone else get the credit for it. Right. And the other thing that is a great micro step that is so critical is to find your ambassadors as women and your mentors, and as a man, to find the woman that you're celebrating, that you're going to be the walking ambassador for. And I would never have made it in my years of business, being in business since 2001, without having men support me that didn't take, I had no business with them. I didn't interact with them. They believed in me early on, and they were the ones in the room that were cheerleading for me, that were telling people that they needed to know me. So I advise every man to take 5 to 10 women every year that you're just anchoring, and you're adding to your community of women that you're celebrating, and you're talking about them when they're not in the room. That's the most important thing to do. when you're having active conversations and you're hearing about different things, thinking about inclusiveness and thinking about, you know what, I know this woman, she's amazing, you gotta have a meeting with her. Everyone encouraged people to take meetings with women. You always get something out of a meeting. Maybe it's not for the two of you, but it's for the greater good. So that's definitely what you men can do, definitely to step up for us. It's a huge impact.
And if I could just give some inspiration to women, at the end of the day, we just got to be dogs. Like, you just got to get in there. You just you got to get in a dog fight. You got to put your big girl panties on and literally turn some things off and literally get in there and fight like a dog. Honestly, you have to.
I could not agree more. My go-to saying is closed mouths don't get fed. So if you don't want it, if you want it, you actually have to go get it, and let your work be your foundation. Let your work be your backing. Nobody is asking for favors at all. This is just hard work here.
Yeah, and I think
totally agree.
Blue and I take it personal. We're like, yo, we haven't done enough. Apparently, we just got to do more. You know what I mean? And just really just taking that responsibility and being like, the destiny is in my hands. You know what I'm saying? So, again, we do ask for you guys to be considerate of certain things, but as women, we have to take on that responsibility as well. So it's a shared thing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as a publisher or as a manager, whatever, too, it's our job to educate the room and make sure everyone's prepared too. So it's our job to make sure everyone in the room is aware of who plays what role. And sometimes, unfortunately, you have to do that with women because it's not just assumed that the woman in the room is the engineer or the producer. Those are the things we actively have to try and change. So it's on us to just educate everyone, prepare them. And, as shitty as it is, that's just how it is for now until it becomes the norm.
But I remember it was a book I read as a kid called "Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun," and it was about Reginald Lewis. He was the first black billionaire on Wall Street, and guy from Baltimore hustled his way into Harvard. And I remember reading that book, and it was the first time I saw a black successful businessman. And then when I was watching the Madam C.J. Walker movie on Netflix, it gave me that same feeling, because what ends up happening is, to you guys' point about being a dog and being able to go in, it's she went in when it wasn't even black men going in, you know what I'm saying? In that time. So it's just understanding that that power is within you. And if you want something bad enough, you're gonna actually go the distance. And, and even as a black man in the business world, I understand the concept of having to work harder than people, not given the benefit of the doubt, not getting the multiple chances that other people may be able to get. And so the level of commitment that has to go into the work, the follow-up, the drive. And so for us, and I could, Jay and I have been partners since, 1999. And so I guess I could clearly speak on behalf of our partnership. When we see underdogs, or we see people who aren't that's just who we are naturally drawn to. And so I think that helped, that's the makeup of our group, and that's the sort of where it comes from. And then the other piece is just in terms of because I definitely I got so much pride, just the way I was raised. And so it's the no handout thing, I completely understand. So, but with that being said, it may not be a handout, but take the help when it comes. You know what I'm saying? And then because I do think there's certain things where it's I was too prideful in situations to raise my hand when I needed the most help, because I felt like at that time my work should have should have spoken for itself, or I already done certain things or whatever. But it was the pride that got in the way of asking for the help or accepting the help or being able to recognize the help when it showed up.
Yeah, we're not turning down the handouts now. I'm just saying. No, I ain't turning nothing down. Nothing. For sure, but I feel you though. I feel you.
I want my government stimulus money.
Yeah, I need it all.
If women can take a handout, fuck yeah, I can take a handout. I want my check too.
For sure.
I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. We do have some questions from the audience I wanted to get to before we ended the day. First off, thank you everyone so much for participating in the panel today, and also our audience members, thank you for these great questions. First question comes from Ritz McCain from Jersey, currently in Nashville. How do you as women who are established in your profession empower other women, peers or other women starting their careers on a regular basis?
I believe that, like, the same way we pick mentors or people that we're going to look up to, like our ambassadors or whatever, and also having mentees and what I call little sisters, whether they're the artists, whether they're up-and-coming directors, up-and-coming commissioners, or someone that has the gift and the up-and-coming stylist, and at least having 5 of those per year that I take under my wing and just try to school and bring along on the ride the same way a bunch of women brought me in. It's like passing the torch.
Absolutely. To echo what Emmanuel said, I think, we've all been blessed, and I've worked with many of the women on this panel to, have amazing mentors, male and female, to sort of help bring us up and give us the tools and what I like to call heat checks, which is kind of when you need someone to let you know if you're on the right path or not, if you're doing the right thing. And everyone from like the Shaka Pilgrims to the Sylvia Romes and even Emmanuel was there for me in the beginning of my career in terms of helping me figure out what I wanted to do and connecting the dots. And I think it's really important as women that we continue that and continue to pass the torch and each one teach one and really take people under the wings and really, really to be about it instead of just talking about it, and make sure they have what I like to call is a toolkit and is real feedback and real gems and things that they can actually put into everyday life and just what they do on a day-to-day basis. And I think also being a connector of dots in terms of being a connector to other people in the business. Sometimes young girls don't know what they want to do and they just look at the music industry or just entertainment in general, and it's kind of perceived one way. So I think having, strong women like the women that are on this panel to showcase that there are real jobs behind the scenes and real women making real decisions and impacts and affecting budgets and change and decisions is really important. So actually bringing them into our world and showing them what we do every single day, I think is very helpful. And, I've always done that, and I'll definitely continue to do that. I do a lot of mentorship and panels and even just reaching out and speaking to kids one-on-one, even on Instagram, social media, etc.
Yeah, just to echo what Latrice and Manny just said, between the mentoring, really sharing our stories. A lot of it is seeing each other's real situations, the real stories that we share with those that we're mentoring, but also with our direct peers, supporting one another. And I think when we see what's going on with each other, whether it be, hearing Nova Wave's struggles, you inspire another female producer or, female producer team, or a female engineer out there that's going through it, and they see that, in spite of all the challenges, you still persevered and you still got there, you still got what you wanted. So I think sharing those real stories of how we've overcome our obstacles is also really important. Taking the time to help support our peers and the younger women coming up with how to get through those challenges and to keep going.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I know personally for us, anytime we see like a female intern or anything, they have my direct email, my direct phone number. Now, whether they follow up with me or not, hopefully, when we run into some of these women, they will actually like follow up. But anytime I see a woman, female producer, engineer, songwriter, they information off top. I think that's just one way, again, like you said, and just in being a tool, like Latrice said.
I think there is some moments where, as an already established person, I guess I'll speak from my perspective because I'm an artist, where you get presented an opportunity that you know you might get again at multiple times, so you can stand to pass that on and suggest somebody else. If it's like maybe, hey, we want to grab you for this soundtrack. I myself has been on so many soundtracks that I've been in a situation where I've been like, you know what, maybe this is a better fit for this soundtrack. You pass off an opportunity. Maybe it's for a session. Maybe it's, if I typically like to write by myself in a room, but I know, one of my homegirls is trying to get into the writing field, I'm going to bring my homegirl to the session and constantly ask her in a session, like, yo, you got something to say? You got a suggestion? Like, you want to participate? You want to add something to the pot? I think it's about actually taking those time to set aside, is this something I can stand to, actually give somebody the opportunity and put somebody in the position and, share the wealth and spread the wealth with situations like that. So besides just the mentorship, it's actually like putting other women in positions and bringing them in and like saying, here's the actual tools and the resources that, we can all afford to share.
Love that. I'm going to get one more question for you guys before we end, but just for everyone in the audience, thank you so much for participating. We appreciate it. And also, if you're interested in connecting after the panel, please join our Slack group or sign up for our email list. It's been a fun way for people to connect and try to even get some work done during this time. Last question for the group is, where are you at? From Stephanie. What advice would you give a woman going to negotiation confidently and really getting what she's worth, figuratively and literally?
Get an attorney.
Know what
Get a really, really, really good attorney.
Also know what you're worth.
Yeah, I was going to top on a know your worth.
Know what you're worth.
Know what you're worth.
Absolutely.
Suze, you got to chime in on that too, Suze.
Don't be afraid to ask for what you think you're worth, and don't back down from that. Stand by it.
Really ask for more.
Right.
Yeah.
I find
more
that
than what you're worth. You'll land on what you're worth after.
Yeah, I remember we were doing my deal with Warner Chappell, and I was like, man, I'm just gonna shoot for the stars. And I was like, yo, if Ryan leaves Warner Chappell, then I'm out of my deal. And they were like, listen, it's not happening. Like, shoot for the stars. Like they said, know what your worth is.
Yeah, my personal story with our new company Q&A is that Troy and I were working together at Atom Factory with Jay since 2015. And I was brought on as Troy's investment partner, looking at opportunities to support entrepreneurs and tech companies. And 5 years passed and lots of amazing experiences together, wins, losses, everything in between, him in that role at Spotify. And then when we came out and we were going to start Q&A, like a light bulb went off in my head that, oh my goodness, we are starting a new company and we are going to have the opportunity to create an institution, like build a culture that we want. And we've been together 5 years, I can see this going another 5 years, another 10 years, but if this is also my thing, like my company, and not just this is my job, then this is a forever assignment for me. It's not a job, it's my life. And Troy was like, Suze, we got to have a conversation about equity and your role and your salary and things like that. And I said, all right, Troy, like we do, is it okay if I come over to your house on the weekend in the morning and we'll powwow? And he said, sure, we'll do that. That's like a good time for us. So I got there, I thought about it for days and days. And I got there and first kind of just shared that my heart was in a place where I was just so incredibly grateful for the past 4 years together, that I hadn't experienced a professional relationship where I felt like I was trusted and given authority to do whatever I needed to do, plus had like a wing in my back, or wind at my back. Sorry, immigrant, I can't do phrases right. But I first started with that intention and how grateful I was. And I was like, we're about to have this, I'm making the story shorter, but we're about to have this conversation, like this awkward conversation about compensation and equity. And, for me, my intention is I want to run this with you for many years to come. And I want to pose this as a conversation, but how would you feel if I was a co-founder in the company? And by the way, I had the conversation with my significant other the night before, and significant other was like, why would Troy Carter make you a co-founder in the company? And I was like, I mean, yeah, I could see that too. And if that happens, then that happens. But if I don't ask, and if I don't say something about my intention about building this company together, then it's not going to happen. I could be the president of the company, but I won't be a co-founder of the company. And so when I did say that to Troy, honestly, there was zero hesitation. Like, the one word was absolutely. And now he has me forever.
I can't think of a better story to leave off on, truly. If anyone had the sincere pleasure working with Suzy Ryoo, take it in a heartbeat, truly. I
have one question for the group, the panelists, Maria.
And Jay knows forever means forever. We ride.
I have one question for the group, and that's, I think I look at everyone on this panel and I see a group of entrepreneurs, like women, but like entrepreneurs that are leading and innovating and trailblazing. And, in my role with Troy over the past 5 years, we're looking at investment opportunities all the time. And Troy and Jay have been prolific investors in incredible companies, like at their beginning, when companies are valued privately at low money valuations. And I have always asked the question of like, why can't we get more women investing and seeing themselves as entrepreneurs and investors, investing in other entrepreneurs? And I know a few of the women on this panel have done exactly that. I know, Kehlani, you started a health tech company on mental health, which I love, with the woman that we love, Arlen Hamilton. And I just want to pose the question of, are you thinking about yourself as an entrepreneur? Are you thinking about investing in other entrepreneurs? And if you are and aren't, I'd love to be helpful, and I'd love to surface opportunities and like create a culture and a community where women have the same opportunities to invest in great entrepreneurs, just like the men do, and say, hey, bro, do you want to invest in this? It's 10K or 20K, but you have to tell me tomorrow because its opportunity is gone. And I think it's going to take years, but I want women to have the same seat at the table. And that money, that $10,000 might go away, but also in 5 years, it might turn into 100 or 1 million if it's the right company. So that's my final question that I just want to ask anybody who wants to contribute.
Absolutely. Definitely.
I'm going to hit you, Suzy.
Yes.
Same.
Same.
I'll be hitting
Same.
Yes.
Be no fun.
Suze, I want to invest.
This is
Thank y'all for doing
discrimination. This is discrimination now. That's involved.
I'm in.
Thank y'all for doing this. We truly appreciate it. Y'all are such an inspiration to all of us, included the men as well. Don't think y'all just out there inspiring women. We're inspired. I'm inspired by watching this panel, hearing everyone's story, but also just y'all are inspiring so much of the world. We thank y'all for doing this and taking the time out.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for having us. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.